This is the solution to the study guide exercises in Lesson 3 for the Visual Basic for Absolute Beginners video series. And I'm looking on page 5 of the study guide right now, where we have two exercises for this lesson. The first exercise is that we want to take a look at the various events that are available for a control, in this case a button control. So we're going to just put a really simple message box.show, and then we'll put the event name within the message box, just so we can get a feel for the different events that are available for a couple of the controls. You'll notice that we're going to look at not only the text box, but also, the button, but also the text box. And between the events that we'll look at, they'll probably make up the majority of events that we'll want to capture on a Windows Forms application at this point. There's lots of others, admittedly, but they're usually used for some very specific purposes that we're not going to get into right now. So at any rate, let's do this. Let's go ahead and start with creating a new project. We're going to call it something clever like Lessson3 exercise. And we're going to take a single button, and let's go ahead and prep for the second part of this example. We'll get a text box out here too. We'll use that a little bit later. So what we'll do with this is we're going to go to the little events pane of our properties window, and I'm going to start creating event handlers for the events that we want to capture. For example, the click event, I just double clicked on it in the properties area, and it created a event handler called button1_click. As you can see in the code view, that we now have the private sub button1click event defined for us, so we don't have to type all that in ourselves. We'll also go to the enter. We'll double click that, the enter event, the leave event, the mouse hover event, and that'll pretty much do it for us right now. So now that I have those four events, I'm just going to do this message box.show. I'm going to copy that and just paste it in each of these event handlers. Again, just using my keyboard shortcuts, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Nothing fancy. I'm just going to go click, enter, leave, whoops, muscle memory there, and mouse hover. Okay. Let's run the application. So notice that the enter event was fired immediately. It's because as the form starts up, the button was the first control to be added to the form, and so it fires off the enter event, which is really one of the reasons why we wanted to go through this exercise, just to show you the timing and when some of these events actually get triggered. This is a helpful exercise from that perspective. Notice that there's a caret around, a selection around the button. It has that blue selection. If I were to hit the tab button on my keyboard, notice that the focus has left the button and now has gone onto the text box, so it fires off the leave event. Now I'm going to hover my mouse cursor over the button and see what happens. So mouse hover, I just barely got over it and it fired off the mouse hover event. And then obviously we've seen the click event. I've got to do it pretty fast in order to get to it. Okay, great. Let's do the same thing for the text box. Let's select it, make sure that we're still in the events mode of the properties window. Let's give ourselves a little more room here. And we're going to look at the key press, key down, key up. I think they should all be together here. Key press, key down, key up, and then also the text changed. I'll tell you what, we're also going to do this. Just to avoid too many messages, I'm going to comment out the previous work we've done here, so it doesn't get in the way. I'm going to paste in my little message box.show template. And so one of the big questions that this should answer is what's the difference between a key press button, or key press event rather, and the key down and key up events. You will see. And then text changed, and we may have to kind of work at that to get that one to fire off. So let's go and start up our application. I'm going to press the keyboard, press a letter on my keyboard. I'm going to hold it down. I get the key press event, and I also get the text changed event. I got the key down event as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of key press and text changed and just focus on key down and key up. And, oh yeah, of course we want to save it. So now I'm going to hold the key down, and unfortunately the key down event is getting in the way of the key up event. So let's go ahead and comment that out, and now let's hold down, and when I let go, notice I was holding down and started to auto repeat on the letters, and then after the fourth one I let up and I got the key up event. So what are these useful for? If you're ever trying to do some kind of special text handling where you're going to, each time somebody types a letter, go check the database, refine perhaps the list of options that it brings back based on what's being typed, kind of like what Quicken does or QuickBooks. As you start to type in, it starts to filter the list down, making it smaller and smaller until you find the entry that you're eventually looking for. You can do something similar to that using these events. Also, the text change event can be useful whenever you are want to determine whether or not the user made a change to a text box, and whether that change should prompt a button that allows the user to save their changes back to the original data source. When we start working with databases, this might make a little bit more sense. So that's all there is to it, to those exercises. Just wanted to give you an opportunity to play with events a little bit and kind of learn how to discover more about given events. Just one other thing, if you ever are curious about what a given event does, you can simply select it, and there's a little area underneath the properties window that gives you a short explanation. You can also select it and hit, I believe, F1. Let's see what that brings up for us here. It may not give us complete satisfaction of what we're looking for. If it doesn't, we can always type it in and find. Oh, it does. Good. Okay, so in this case, the style changed event, we can learn more about it. And all I did was, again, going back here, is just select it in my properties window, and then I hit the F1 button on my keyboard, and it popped open the help, specifically the help for that event. And I can see here its usage, and then examples of its use, explanations, and things of that nature. Very good. So very good. So